special presentation for you today, as you probably already know. And we're going to start because it's after 2 and we're still waiting on some folks, but I don't want to wait too long. Dr. Will Tuttle, visionary author of the acclaimed bestseller, The World Peace Diet, published in 18 languages, is a recipient of the Courage of Conscience Award and the Empty Cages Prize. He's also the author of the newly released Food for Freedom, as well as The World Peace Way, Your Inner Islands, Circles of Compassion, and Buddhism and Veganism. So you just sit around, you don't do anything, Will. Dr. Tuttle's Ph.D. is from the University of California, Berkeley, focusing on educating intuition and altruism in adults, and his doctoral dissertation was nominated for the Best Dissertation Award. He has taught college courses in philosophy, humanities, mythology, religion, and creativity. A former Zen Buddhist monk and a Dharma master in the Korean Zen tradition, Dr. Tuttle is a noted composer and pianist. He has created 10 CD albums of uplifting original music, as well as several spoken word meditation CDs. A vegan since 1980, he's a frequent radio, TV, and online presenter and has created several wellness and advocacy training programs. He's featured in Cowspiracy, Christspiracy, Prayer for Compassion, Vegan Everyday Stories, Hope, What You Eat Matters, and Animals and the Buddha, and other documentary films. He is the co-founder of the Worldwide Prayer Circle for Animals with his spouse, Madeleine, a Swiss visionary artist. Dr. Tuttle has delivered 4,000 plus, unbelievable, 4,000 plus live audience presentations promoting compassion, intuition, and vegan living in over 50 countries worldwide and in all 50 US states. All right, I got it. Would you please give a warm welcome to Dr. Will Tuttle and Madeleine.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Oh, what a beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. Let's have a big hand for the Eugene Vegan Education Network. Thank you. I think there's really nothing more important during the time that we're alive right now than vegan education. You know, this is really the key to a positive future for us as human beings. So thank you all for your interest. I know we're all very busy. We have lots of things going on in our lives. So coming out here this afternoon, on this beautiful afternoon, and the idea is that we can savor the time that we have together. This is something I think it's important to do. Very often we're going from one thing to the next, and to just take a moment and breathe. Let's do that right now. Let's just take a moment and breathe together and just be in this beautiful historic house here in this beautiful city of Eugene, focusing on the beauty of nature, of animals, and the beauty of the human spirit of compassion, of awareness, of empathy and kindness, of creativity and appreciation, and give thanks also for this precious opportunity that we have to share the message of the good news that we can all thrive without causing suffering to animals. We give thanks also knowing that we're part of the awakening of human consciousness on this earth during this critical time. And so it is. So again, thank you for joining us. I just love this opportunity. We have a long history, really, of coming to Eugene and presenting in here or in the library and various places. Lynn has been a real champion, and Robert for the animals and for human health and sustainability. All these things are interconnected. And what we like to bring to the conversation especially is the idea of beauty. Madeleine's an artist, and we focus on the idea that We live on a beautiful planet. How many of you have noticed by now that the Earth is beautiful? Anyone figure that out yet? It's so beautiful, and we can see it right here, all these tree-lined streets and just the beauty of nature. And I think that awareness of the beauty of the natural world and of the animals that we share this Earth with, it awakens in us a yearning to protect this beauty and to protect the beauty of children. I'm sure you've all noticed that children are also beautiful before they get too corrupted, right? And so we have this beauty. And so we like to emphasize that, and also emphasize the fact, like I said briefly, that we've all been given a gift of a physical body that does not require animals to be imprisoned or abused to get all the nutrients that we need to thrive and celebrate our lives here. So the problem, of course, is that we've been born into a culture where from the time we're little kids, we are taught that we have to eat animal foods to get calcium and protein and all these things. And so this is not true. This is really, I think, basic misinformation that goes from generation to generation, and it has a huge ripple effect. And so the World Peace Diet, the book I wrote here, how many of you have read the World Peace Diet? Just so I have a feeling. A few of you have? Yeah. So this book became a #1 Amazon bestseller in 2010 worldwide. It's been translated like into many languages. And that's led to us being able to travel the world and share the book with people in Slovenia or Norway or Indonesia or Korea. Say, oh, gosh, we have the book in your language. Come here and speak. So it's been really wonderful to connect with the vegan community all over the world, people who care about animals, care about the earth, and care about their health. And so the underlying message, I think the reason this book was translated into all these languages by volunteers is because it's really the first book to give the big picture of the consequences and ramifications of animal agriculture and eating animals, not only in the outer world, what it does to the environment and to our health and to our society, but what it does to the inner landscape of our consciousness. So to look at it from the point of view of our psychology and our spirituality. And the main point is that animal agriculture, which is the core of our society, it's the main thing we're doing. It's the essence of any society is food. That's basic survival. So the food system in our society that we're born into and indoctrinated into by very loving people is constantly eroding our health on these 5 different levels that I just mentioned. It erodes the health of our environment. It erodes the health of our society. It erodes the health of our body. It erodes the health of our psychology, our mentality, and it erodes the health of our spirituality. Because it's based on a lie. It's based on this idea that we can only be happy if we harm others, right? This is really a terrible thing. But this is what we're taught. Now, I was taught that, like, not directly, but you got to eat this. If you want to grow up and be big and strong, you've got to eat meat and dairy and eggs. And so that means that we justify imprisoning animals, impregnating them against their will on rape racks, stealing their babies, killing their babies, doing it over and over again. When you look behind the curtain of this whole thing, it's hard to watch. I mean, it's so much suffering, and it's not on a small scale. It's on a scale that completely boggles the mind, how big it is. It's actually billions of animals every day we're killing for food, if you include marine animals, because it's in the trillions every year. But even with land animals, it's millions every day. So this is not just a side project that we're doing. This is like the main thing. If someone came from outer space and they landed here and they walked around for a few days and they radioed back up to the mothership, what are they doing down there on planet Earth? Well, they're killing and eating a lot of animals. That's what we're doing. We don't think of ourselves. We think, I got to go to work. I got to get some lunch on the way. I'm going to go buy Kentucky Fried Chicken and pick something up. It's just a sort of a side thing for us. But for the animals, it's the main thing. And so, again, the good news is that we don't have to do that. But the consequences are so severe. And that's, I think, the seriousness of this, really. It's very serious because this violence, which is on many levels towards animals, it always boomerangs. This is the thing, it boomerangs. And so, like you were mentioning earlier, Lynn, I used to teach college courses in a variety of subjects. One of the subjects I always loved teaching was comparative religion. And I've been able to spend quite a bit of time studying all the world religions and going deeply into their main teachings. And I love the fact that basically they agree on the main points. They agree. And the two teachings that are really pillars, the two pillars in all the religions that they all have as their two main pillars. One is what we would call the golden rule. This is in all the religions. I remember in Chufu in China at the Confucian temple there, and in 2500 BC, Confucius say, do not do to others what you don't want to have done to yourself. Right? This is the golden rule. The other teaching in all the religions is the mirror image of that, which is whatever you do to others, it'll happen to you, right? As you sow, you will reap. So those two go together. Don't do to others what you wouldn't have done to yourself, because whatever you do, it will come back. This is so important, but we're not taught this really. I mean, at least we're not taught this when it comes to animals. And we have somehow this idea that we have permission to just dominate and exploit them, and it's okay. But the thing is, their suffering is immense. And we, in our society, have companion animals. Right? We have dogs and cats, and so we love these animals. And yet we go to the store, and we take out our wallet, and I always like to remind people that, I'll see if I can take it out here, that this is where we actually have something really fantastic. We have right here ballots that are actually counted. For sure, these are counted. So we have these ballots that are always counted, and this is where we're really voting. We're voting all the time, and these votes go out and they make the world be what it is. These really make a difference. So the thing is, if we're voting for animal-based foods, we're voting for someone somewhere to do something that we wouldn't want to do ourselves, right? We would not want to have to impregnate our own, rape our kill our baby, do all these terrible things. So we pay other people to do that. And so the boomerang comes then back to us. And this is, the new book, I go into this especially in detail, how it affects our health, our freedom. A lot of the things we're seeing in our society now are a direct result of the boomerang effect. And I can go into that maybe a little bit later. But the main understanding is that the violence towards animals also not only harms them, but it harms the ecosystems. And I think a lot of you are probably aware of that, so I won't go into it too much in depth. But the basic idea is pretty simple, which is that since animal foods, meat, dairy, and eggs, require so much more land, right? You've got to grow grains, mainly corn, soy, some other grains, oat, wheats, and things. Usually nowadays, especially in the United States, it's genetically engineered. So we're poisoning the land and the water to feed these animals huge amounts of grain that they convert into much smaller amounts of meat and dairy and eggs. And so that wastefulness is not only harming the ecosystems, and because we have to cut down more and more rainforests to feed everybody, and so we're in the middle of the largest mass extinction of species in 65 million years, and the cutting down of rainforests, and soil erosion, and water depletion, and water pollution, and air pollution, all of that, but also the destruction of ocean habitats, because we've discovered, scientists figured out that if you feed fish to these cows and pigs and chickens, they give more milk, they give more eggs, and they get fatter. So huge, 40% of the fish we catch, we feed to these animals that would never eat fish. You don't see a cow trying to catch fish in a stream, but cows actually eat more fish than human beings in the United States. It's because they enrich their feed to give more milk and so forth. So we have this whole very perverse system that we've created that maximizes profits for a few at the expense of the welfare, really, of ecosystems and of our health and of the poor animals and wildlife. Wildlife, I'll just say one sentence about it, but that sentence is that we have a whole very well-paid department called the Department of Wildlife Services. It's part of the Department of Agriculture, and all they do is kill wildlife. And by the millions every year, they're paid for by our taxpayer dollars to kill coyotes and bobcats and mountain lions and bears, but not just them, like raccoons and otters and skunks and blackbirds and every kind of bird, cormorants, almost any animal you can think of, they're killing. Because from the very beginning, animal agriculture has been about we own these animals and we don't want anybody to mess with them. So get rid of those other pests, right? Those animals. So unfortunately, it's not our fault. It's just that we've been born into a system that started 10,000 years ago, and I talk about that in both books, the history of this, and how we're raised with the mentality of basically dominating animals in nature. And it's done mainly through the ritual of eating food. It's not taught directly. We don't raise kids and say, we're just going to teach you that we're superior, they're inferior, and it's okay for us to dominate. But the underlying action of eating animal foods, we eat that teaching and it becomes part of our way of looking at the world. So one of the things that's really important to understand is that animal agriculture is not only harming these aspects of the outer world, like the environment and our society, because since it's so wasteful to grow animal foods, most of the food that could feed human beings, instead of feeding hungry human beings, is feeding animals. So we have the situation where people in more industrialized nations, like where we live, it's not that difficult for most of us to have enough money to buy animal-based foods. They're subsidized on a massive scale, actually, by the government, but also we make enough money so that we can buy it. But people who live in less industrialized countries, they don't have high-powered economies like we do. So for them to buy meat, they can't even think of that, but they can't even buy the grain, because we bid up the price of grain on the world market to feed our cows and pigs and chickens, and they can't compete with us because we have a high-powered economy and they don't. So we have almost 1 billion of our brothers and sisters chronically hungry and starving, and that's the main reason. We grow enough food to feed 15 to 20 billion people. We only have, like they say, about 8, but we have a lot of people starving because we're feeding food that could feed them to animals, and then we eat those foods which these animals convert would be healthy plant-based food if it wasn't all sprayed with chemicals, but they convert it into saturated fat and cholesterol and acidifying and inflammatory animal protein, and so then we get the diseases that come from that. A lot of cancer, heart disease, liver disease, kidney disease, osteoporosis. These are the diseases that really make so much money for the pharmaceutical industry. And we find that we have a system that tries to spread this way of eating around the world through lots of different governmental aid programs. We try to encourage other countries to eat the way we do, because then the pharmaceutical medical complex, as well as the agribusiness complex, and they can go into other countries and make more money. And so this whole system, again, it's just good to be aware of it, because if we're not aware of it, we tend to become, in a sense, unwitting victims of it. We find so many people now that have all these diseases. Cancer is much higher, heart disease, strokes, all these autoimmune diseases. These are really linked with animal-based foods, because animal-based foods concentrate toxins, all the toxins in the environment that's sprayed on chemicals, that are sprayed on land and end up in the water, end up in the feed. And if we're eating higher on the food chain, we're just going to get a lot more of these chemicals. So what we recommend is an organic, whole food, plant source diet. That's the good news. Like, we can all choose that. We can actually say, all right, I understand the system now. I'm not going to go and eat bacon, and I'm not going to buy even non-organic plant-based foods if you can help it, because in the last, maybe I would say 10 years, the use of Roundup, glyphosate, has just exploded. It's become the #1 herbicide in the entire United States, probably worldwide. And it's a broad spectrum antibiotic, so it attacks the microbiome in our own body. It's also carcinogenic, and it also attacks our nervous system. So it really harms us so much. And it's in pretty much, if it's inorganic, you probably get some. So it's good to be savvy that if we want to be healthy, and being healthy is a fantastic thing. It really is. It's important. And because the healthier we are, the happier we are, and the more effective we can be in the world, right? We can live our lives. If I'm not healthy, if I can't even get out of bed in the morning, if I don't have energy, if I'm like, oh, how do I get through another day? I'm not a lot of good for other people. So it's important for us to be self-reliant about our health. And one of the things I remember in the early days, and it's still there now, there was this sort of battle within the vegan movement between the people who were vegan for the animals and the people who are vegan just for their own health. And the basic idea is, if you're vegan for the animals, that's a much higher motivation. That's more like you care about others. If you're vegan just for yourself, that's just caring about yourself. But there's some truth to that, I guess, on some level. And I would have to say, being caring about your health, that's very compassionate for others. That's very compassionate for others. So, because I've seen it. Madeleine and I have been traveling and giving lectures, for 35 years, like you said, Lynn, thousands of them. And we've met a lot of people through this process. And we've met quite a few people who, for example, this is just an example, but it's a similar thing, where the wife, the woman, she goes vegan. Her husband says, not me, I like my meat. So that goes on for maybe 5-10 years, and then at one point he has a stroke. Then she has to spend the next 10 years looking after this guy who can't even remember who she is or whatever. I mean, so his just wanting to do whatever he wanted to do, now she has to pay the price in a sense. So being healthy is better for everybody. When we're not healthy, we're taking pharmaceuticals. They go through us. They go into the water. They go in. There's actually a lot of diseases now that dolphins are getting and other animals are getting from our pharmaceuticals that end up in the water and hurting them. So the more we can really be healthy, like really be proactive in figuring out what you can do to stay and be healthy physically and psychologically and spiritually, because they all go together. That new book, which is out and it's being shipped, and it's going to arrive on Monday at my house, but it's going to arrive on Monday up in Washington, where we're going to be day after tomorrow. We're going to have those. It's called The World Peace Way, and that book is just about how to be healthy. So that's the final trilogy book. But these two books go into the whole underlying teaching of why it's important. But the point here essentially is that we have this animal agriculture at the core of our society, and it's eroding the health of our environment, of our society, because we have people starving. That's the main cause of war. We have people doing the work. They have to stab animals all day. These people have the highest rates of injuries and so forth, and suicide and drug addiction and spousal abuse. So it's a whole web of trauma that radiates into our society, into nature, everything. It's violence, and it's unnecessary. So that's the thing. And then to realize that it doesn't just stop in the outer world, it actually goes into the inner world. And the attitudes that we're really compelled just to be living in this society to adopt, especially if we're eating animal foods. And so these books, both of them go into that, especially the new book, the attitudes that are required to be eating animal foods. And there's a whole bunch of them, but I'll just mention maybe 2 or 3. One of the most important ones is the attitude of disconnectedness. And that's the basic thing. Like, we sit at the table and we're eating bacon, or we're eating cheese, or whatever. And so the whole idea is we don't make the connection between what's on our plate and what it took to get it onto our plate. We don't want to think about it. We don't start talking about it. Gosh, that's a great, wonderful Sunday morning. What a beautiful morning. We're having our bacon and our eggs. So I wonder that, like our bacon, I wonder what her life was like. No one wants to think about that. No one wants to think about the poor animal that was confined and couldn't even turn around, and the screaming and the blood and all that. So we just don't do that. We just don't go there. So we practice the art of staying shallow and not making connections with every single meal. And meals are the most powerful ritual in every society. This is well understood by anthropologists. So again, we can't blame anyone. We don't have to blame anyone. It's just a cultural fact that after 10,000 years, we're born into a situation as little kids. We don't get our mother's breast anymore. We get usually, sometimes we get our mother's breast, but right after that, we start getting, if you go to the grocery store and look at the little jars of baby food, you'll see veal and turkey and chicken and all this stuff. So we're eating this stuff and we don't know what it is. And then at one point maybe we find out, but by then it's kind of like too late. Now we're already eating animal foods and we're told we have to for the protein. But it just cements in us this attitude of disconnectedness. My Ph.D. at Berkeley focused on intelligence. And intelligence, the definition of intelligence is the capacity to make connections. That's what it is. So we have a society where we're just being told, not told, but we're learning, we're eating it. Like we're eating this ritualized activity of don't make the connection, don't make the connection. So it's eroding our intelligence and our ability to make connections cognitively, and I think also emotionally. We learn to just don't care. We care about these animals, we don't care about those animals, right? We learn to not care. So it's eroding that capacity for caring, and that's a spiritual power that we're losing. So what veganism is essentially is saying, all right, I want to regain and rebuild my intelligence, my awareness of the interconnectedness of all life, and also to reconnect with some of the other attitudes that are so important. Like another attitude underlying animal agriculture is might makes right. Like those who are powerful can dominate those who are weaker, because that's what we do. The only reason we can get away with what we're getting away with the animals is because we have technology that they can't resist, so we just use it. And so here we are, and another subtext that goes along with that is There's certain beings are inherently superior and other beings are inherently inferior, and it's fine for the superior beings to dominate and exploit the inferior beings. So we have this all going on with our food, and yet on the other hand, we naturally want to create a society of more justice and more equality, but our main ritual is injustice and inequality. So we don't make progress, really. I mean, when you look at the actual statistics of the richest 1% of humanity, and I remember just a few years ago in 2019, the richest 1% of humanity had wealth equal to the other 99%, which is already like ridiculous. I mean, that's so much injustice. And they use that wealth to basically dominate everybody else and control the narratives, control the media, control the governments, control everything. But just a few years later, in 2022, they did the same analysis, and now the richest 1% has twice as much wealth as everybody else, as the other 99%, right? And it keeps increasing. I mean, now it's probably 4 times, 5 times as much in the last couple of years. It just keeps going that direction. So how are they able to do that? This explains a lot of it, because we're eating foods of injustice, and we're also eating foods of not making these connections, and so it's happening. So what we're trying to do really is awaken humanity to see the situation we're in, and please stop dominating animals and exploiting them if you don't want to be dominated and exploited, because as you sow, so shall you reap. Whatever we do, it's going to come back. How can we think that we're worthy of having a society of justice, freedom, health, sustainability, joy, all these things, when the main thing we're doing is destroying the health, freedom, joy, and well-being of millions of other animals every single day? We destroy it, and it's not necessary. I mean, here I am. I haven't had any animal foods in 44 years. I'm not dying of a protein deficiency or a calcium deficiency, and there's millions of people just like me. Madeleine, for example. So it's fantastic. I mean, to understand this, that we can thrive and celebrate our lives on this beautiful earth without, in fact, we'll be just as healthy as people eating animal foods, but I would say probably much healthier. I just watched this video yesterday, I think it was, or day before yesterday, a guy, he has a t-shirt called The Elderly Vegan, because he's 74 years old. And he's saying, I can do 70, he does 70 push-ups. And he says, 70 push-ups, in order to get into the most elite of the military special forces, like the Navy SEALs and the Green Berets and the whatever they are, the Air Force has theirs. He said, you have to be able to do about 50 of these push-ups. He said, I can do 70. I could join there if I wanted to, and I'm 74. So I thought I'm going to try that. So I did, and I did 60. So I could join them too. And I'm 70. I'm 71. So the whole idea is we can be healthy. We've got a great example right here with Mike, right? And we can thrive and be strong, but not only strong physically. Strong, I think even more important than physical strength is our intellectual capacity. Being able to see clearly, understand, having emotional availability, not like I don't want to think about, don't talk about this. Really being open to the consequences of my actions. That's a tremendous thing. That's one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves, is to say, I'm living my life as best as possible to minimize the harm I'm causing others. That's when we actually move to a vegan way of living, or I call it plant-sourced way of living. We really move into that, doing the best we can. And I think a lot of people say it's like this weight just falls away. We realize, there are problems in the world, but I'm not contributing to them. And I'm doing the best I can not to contribute to them, and to contribute to the solution of these problems, to be like Gandhi said, to be the change we would like to see in the world. And these natural capacities that we have been suppressed by the tribalism in our society, this idea that I want to look what other people do and just do what they do. I don't want to be different. This idea that I'm afraid of being different. And I think really it's good to question what everybody else is doing. And one of the things I write about in the Food for Freedom is that we have these 3 capacities, and yet. The first of the 3 capacities is rationality, right? Or intellectual intelligence. If we were really using our rationality, our society, if all of us in our society were using our rationality, we would have long time ago, we'd all be vegan. Right? Long time ago. Madeleine and I would not have to go traipsing around the whole world saying, come on everybody, get with the program and go vegan. We would have, it's so obvious. I mean, right? I mean to grow all this food, and pollute all these waters and pollute everything and then feed it all this food to animals, and then the animal food causes all kinds of disease to us, and you have people killing and stabbing. I mean, it's completely anti-rational. Like, what the heck? How is this possible? You know? So something is like completely trumping or destroying our rationality. Then there's a second capacity we all have, which is empathy. We all have empathy, right? When we see another, being suffering, we know what that's like. We've all suffered, and we don't like to cause others suffering. That's a basic characteristic that we all have. And so if we all had empathy working, we would have long ago all gone vegan, because we're not only taking out our wallet and causing all that suffering and abuse, then we turn around and we actually eat it. We eat all that misery and violence and terror and fear and pain and despair and panic and horror. We eat all that. I mean, our empathy would never go along with that. And then we have a third capacity, which is our spiritual intuition. We have spiritual intuition. We know that we are not merely this body. We know that what we are is eternal consciousness that was never born and will never die. And that we're functioning for a few precious decades through this vehicle that's waving at you. But that's not what we are. We are this eternal consciousness. We know that at a deep level. We're aware of that. And we know that's true of all living beings. So that spiritual intuition, if that was functioning, we would have long ago stopped eating animal foods, because we would see this is completely contrary to spirituality. It's satanic. I mean, it's pure. What is the definition of satanic? Satanic teachings are whatever you want, just do it. That's it. Just doesn't matter if it hurts others. It's like, you want it, do it. I talk to people, you like to eat meat? Oh, I love it. It's causing suffering. I don't care. I like it. It's delicious. I mean, that's a satanic mindset, quite honestly. And so it's not our fault. It's just that we are raised in many ways in what is actually a satanic cult, in the sense of, from the point of view of animals. If you ask the cows and pigs and chickens, they go, yeah, it really is. We don't see it because we're superior to them, we think. But it's the complete antithesis of spirituality. That's the point. So why is it that then we have such a difficult time changing this behavior? And I think it really comes down to the power of tribalism, in the sense of we look to others to decide what we're going to do. Like, if they're going to do it, everybody's going to eat this, then I'm going to eat that too. It's very difficult for us to not comply with groupthink, right? You've seen some of those studies that are done on perception. The experiments that were done on how long a line is, and you have someone coming into a group and you say, yeah, the lines are, and the group is all, they're in cahoots. They know that, and they all say, oh, this line is the longest, and the guy will go, yeah, that's the longest line, just to go along, right? We'll even just deny our own perceptions to not be different. So it takes a lot of character, I think, in a sense, to eat differently than the people around us do, because food is our most fundamental way of bonding. This is how we bond with each other, right? So we have this tension in our society between understanding and living according to our native intelligence and compassion and awareness, and going along with what everybody is doing. And so kudos to all of you. Really, congratulations that you're still here after I said all that. You didn't walk out and slam the door. So that's great. So you're already on the path, far along. Maybe a lot of you I know are far along on the path of questioning the official narratives in our society surrounding food. And when we do that, we are an incredibly powerful force for healing our world. This is the sine qua non. I mean, if we don't change our food practice in our society, and with the technology that we have, that we're using on animals of domination and surveillance, those same technologies are being turned on us. And we human beings are becoming the livestock. And those same technologies can be used to surveil us and dominate us and not allow us to go anywhere. And we can become livestock ourselves if we're not careful. So it's very important. We've been warning this. I mean, Madeleine and I have been saying for 30 years, traveling around the country, You know, if we're going to insist on exploiting animals, if we're going to insist on force medicating animals, if we're going to insist on confining animals, we're going to find the same thing happening to us. So it's really important to give to animals, do to others what you would like to have done to yourself, right? Give them freedom if we want to have freedom. As we liberate others, then we get liberated. As we imprison others, we get imprisoned. And there's a lot more to this message. There's all of the questions that people have about health, like, well, how do you eat a really healthy diet? How do you live a healthy lifestyle? There's questions about pets, the companion animals that we have. How do you feed your dogs and cats? There are vegan foods, actually. Dogs are pretty easy. Cats are a little more difficult, but it's doable, I think. And there's other questions too. So I think what I'll do is maybe stop here. Maybe I'll say one more thing, and then I'll turn it over to Madeleine. The one other thing I'll say is just the idea that the most powerful teaching, I think, in this whole thing is the power of community. That's really what I was talking about, the power of community. In other words, when we go out here and we walk around and we see people going into the restaurant or going into the store, taking out their wallet and paying for meat, dairy, and eggs, there's only one reason anyone does that. One reason is they're following orders, just doing what they were told to do by their parents and teachers and their minister or priest and the newspaper articles, and we're just born into that, so we're following orders. That's the only reason that we're doing that. So the only reason people eat animal foods is because of the communities they're raised in. So the best way to help change that in a positive direction is to create alternative communities of sanity, of health, of kindness. And that's what EVEN is, right? That's what the Eugene Vegan Education Network is, a community based on the principles of kindness and caring and health and sustainability. And we can come together like this, and we can transform our society through the creation of alternative communities. That's what happened to me. Like, I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts, back in the 50s, and I remember just eating a lot of meat, dairy, and eggs, like everybody did. And I asked my mother when I was about 7, I said, "Mom, the kind of food we're eating, is this what everybody eats?" And my mother said, yeah, what we eat is, everybody eats this, pretty much, yeah. And then she left, and then she came back, and she said, I was thinking about it, and it's not totally true. There are vegetarians. And I'd never heard that word in my life, and I was at the age when I liked learning new words, especially if they were kind of long, like vegetarian, woohoo, like, what's that? And my mother said, a vegetarian, there's some of them around. But I really wouldn't worry about it because you're probably never going to meet one. She had never met one. And she said, I don't know where they get their protein. So in my young mind, I thought, wow, these vegetarians are really rare, strange birds. They're really strange people. They probably drag themselves through the dirt begging for protein. I was so glad I wasn't one of these stupid vegetarians. And my mother was right. We kept eating meat, dairy, and eggs. And I went away to a summer camp in Vermont when I was about 13, 14 years old for a few years. And I was taught how to. It was this little, farm nestled in the Green Mountains of Vermont where nothing bad ever happens. But I was taught how to catch a chicken, hold her down, have my axe, and put her through the scalding tank and eat the chickens. And I didn't like doing it, but I knew it was a good thing because I had gone through at that point 13 years of the most intense indoctrination a human being can ever go through. Like 3 times a day I was eating the teaching that God gave us certain animals to eat. They don't have a soul. They taste good. If you don't eat them, you're definitely going to die within 24 hours of a protein deficiency, right? That's the basic teaching. So I thought, all right, I can get my protein here. And every year we would gather around a dairy cow. We would do the same thing, and this poor cow. So I saw the suffering, and it's a much bigger animal. It's more, much messier. And the guy, it was interesting because the reason he always gave was he says, she's too old now. So we can't use her for milk anymore. We have to use her for meat. And I remember we would say, so how old is she? Oh, she's 5 years old. And 5 years old? I mean, they would live 25 years normally. But on any dairy, organic or not, when a cow reaches 5 years old, they've already given birth at that point 4 times to 4 calves and been kept pregnant and lactating simultaneously. That's what happens. So that breaks down the health of any mammal very quickly. So they're worn out, but one of their babies will be a female probably, so that'll take her place. So I participated in all that, but I couldn't question it because I was so indoctrinated. I went away to college in Maine, and I remember hearing there were some vegetarians, but I never met one. And then it was during the early 1970s when the Vietnam War and all that. And I remember during that time, I started reading about meditation and yoga and spirituality, Christianity, everything. I started really, and I was born in Concord, so Emerson and Thoreau, all that started kicking in. And I decided with my younger brother that we would leave home and go on a spiritual pilgrimage and walk to California with no money, just meditating, like the Indian sadhus, just for attain enlightenment. So we did. Our parents gave us their blessing. We headed off walking to California. And it was a great adventure, I have to say. It was an amazing time. We really had a life there doing that. And after about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, we got as far as Buffalo. And it was October, and it was getting really cold. And so we thought, all right, let's just head south. The heck with going to California. We tried to keep ahead of the cold front, right? And we did. We walked all the way down through upstate New York into Pennsylvania, across Pennsylvania to West Virginia, got into the Bible Belt, and then we walked across West Virginia into Kentucky, across Kentucky into Tennessee. And when we got down south of Nashville, we stopped for a little while at a place we heard about called The Farm. And The Farm in 1975 was the largest hippie commune in the world. They had about 900 people, and they were pretty much all from California. So they were from San Francisco, and they were all vegetarians. They said we're vegetarians, but we would call them vegans because they didn't eat any meat or dairy or eggs or even honey, and they were doing it for ethical reasons. They were doing it for. Cause I asked them, I said, why are you guys vegetarian? And they said, well, because of the hunger in the world. We're feeding all this food to animals while people are starving. So we're eating lower in the food chain so there's enough for everyone to eat. And I thought, well, that's great. Is there any other reason? Well, the other reason is, the animals are suffering. Really? Oh, yeah. And he explained to me the suffering of the animals. So since that day, I've never eaten meat in my life, in 1975. And I found out years later when I met Madeleine, the same month and year, right at the very end of 1975, she also never ate meat in her life in Switzerland. And then a few years later, I got out to California. I was living in the meditation center there. And I learned more about dairy and eggs. So I became a vegan in 1980. And then a few years after that, for the second time in my life, and I became a Zen Buddhist monk in Korea, South Korea. And so for the second time in my life, I was in a community. That's the point I want to make, community. The reason I was able to go vegetarian was because of the community of the farm, the example, right? You're just like there, every 900 people, they were all eating a vegan lifestyle. That was fantastic. That made it easy. But in South Korea, the neat thing was the monastery there, they had been practicing what we would call veganism for 750 years. No meat, no dairy, no eggs, no wool, no silk, no leather, no killing mosquitoes. It was all based on ahimsa. So really, we were meditating from 2:45 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, in silence for many weeks. So it was a very intense meditation, and I think with the sensitivity that comes from meditation, you realize we're not going to be killing animals and then meditating. That doesn't go together. And so when I came back to this country, eventually I decided to come back and get my Ph.D. at Berkeley and all that. But I felt like I had these roots of veganism that went so much deeper. So that's the key point, is that community is why we eat animal foods. When we create alternative communities, spiritual communities, or communities based on compassion for animals, or even for just environmental and health reasons, then we create the opportunity to help other people change their lives. So I want to thank all of you for your kind attention and for helping to contribute to this community of sanity and health here in Eugene. Thanks very much. I appreciate your attention. Thank you. So, yes.
We're going to take questions.
Yes, so I'd like to turn it over to Madeleine just for a second to talk a little bit about the art and music and the food, and we'll take questions. Yeah, take questions. Yeah.
Thank you, it was great. So, what I'd like to share actually, if you're curious about some more delicious foods which are plant source based, we have a new kind of
whole food plant source.
Yeah, because vegan, is so. Anyway, but if you like to go to our website, worldpeacediet.com, and then scroll down and go to videos, and then I have Madeleine's Intuitive Kitchen, and with lots of delicious foods, some inspired by Europe, like Switzerland, where I'm from, but also Italy. They have a great kitchen. And so you can learn how to make vegan pizza, zucchini strudel, a nice coming up Christmas tree, finger food. You can clip off the branches and eat. It's really delicious. So if you like to go there and follow me and replicate the same dish in your kitchen, so you're invited for it. Yes?
Just a worldpeacediet.com.
Exactly.
Yes.
And everything's there. You can get books. You can get
Yeah,
recipes.
you just scroll down,
Yeah.
you know, you have the tour, you have also lots of videos of Will's interviews and
Articles.
articles.
Oh, and the training. too.
And then also, if you like to follow us and coming with us to the garden, to our fruit forest, we have a fruit forest of over 70 fruit and nut trees and lots of vegetables and bushes, berries and goodies. So if you like to learn how this looks like and maybe start one of your own, it's a very good thing to do and it's fun. And some meditations you can learn. So it's a lot of variety if you like to go there. And also I have a portfolio with some more paintings. This is just a little example. And we launched a new series of mini paintings. So if you think, oh, I don't have space on my walls, but mini paintings, they're also nice as gifts. Oh, yes, sorry. So now I'm at the end anyway. And
Okay.
so please come to the table and look. Thank you so much.
And the art, too. All right, thanks, John. Yeah, we're happy to take your questions. Yes, Mike.
Well, you guys are traveling all over the world, 50 countries and all this, but you said at the beginning that the latest book is already on its way, being shipped to your residence. What's your home base of operations these days?
Right. So we lived in an RV, a rolling home, for 17 years and just traveled. We had no place. But then about 12 years ago, we bought a little house in Northern California in Lake County. It's very rural. It's about 2 hours north of San Francisco. And so we have a half an acre. We have about a quarter acre food forest. And so we're there about half the year, mainly in the summer months. We can work in the garden. And then in the winter, we go on the road and travel around the United States. And we, up until COVID, we did a lot of international travel. We haven't since COVID, but yeah, so that's it. So we have a place now there, yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Lynn.
Even focuses on vegan education and outreach. And you were just describing the connectedness or the disconnectedness. Do you have any suggestions how to help reach people who, because we take a pretty soft sell approach, not with the facts that we work with, but with people who come to us for more information. I don't want to beat them about the head and shoulders.
Right.
But we do want to offer the information that they need. When we do that and they're still disconnected from the facts, you have any thoughts on that?
Then you beat them around the head.
Right, I know. That's a great question. I'll just repeat it because it might have been hard to hear it on the recording. But the basic idea is that even the Eugene Vegan Education Network takes a pretty soft sell approach in trying to help people transition from eating the standard American diet to a more healthy plant-sourced diet. But sometimes people have that's your question. Like sometimes people just, anyway, they don't really want to change. What do we do then? I know I used to say, I'm going to just shake you until you go vegan, right? But I think the thing is, as an organization, you're focused on education, and that's the best thing. Like offering events like this and any other kind of event that can help get the message to people online or at festivals of various kinds and so forth. We have to be creative, I think. That's the main thing. I found to my perspective, it seemed like it was easier before COVID. It was just, there was this more, like the Veg Fests were just booming. They were growing every year. We're getting, one year 5,000, next year 8,000, next year 12,000, next year 20,000. We would go to these Veg Fests all over the United States and worldwide, and we just see everything growing. The number of vegan restaurants was just growing, growing, growing. And it seems like when COVID hit, it just created a block. Like suddenly for a whole year we couldn't even get together. A couple of years we didn't get together. We didn't have Veg Fest anymore. A lot of vegan restaurants went out of business. So it's kind of like we have to kind of reinvent, I think. And it's hard. It's just more difficult to get people out and doing things. And in a lot of ways, grassroots efforts require us to communicate with each other and to share ideas and to trust each other. So there's a big push to divide and conquer is a big thing right now. There's a lot of, and I think the divide and conquer strategy works because of deception. That's what's happening. I think there's been so much deception about food and about medical and about just so many things. And there's, in every society, there are four main taboos. There's four taboos that are universal. Killing other beings, or people, but killing, stealing, sexually abusing, and the fourth one is deceiving. And the thing about deception is, like with the other three, you know that you've been harmed, right? If somebody hits you or abuses you, it's like, oh man. But with deception, you don't even know. You have no idea you're being harmed. And so that's why deception is the worst of anything. That's the most, in my mind, it's the most evil. Because you can be really harming people, stealing from them, destroying them, and they still think you're not doing anything. They don't have any comprehension. And so it's really important, I think, for us as vegans to try to, I talk about this especially in the new book, to cultivate what I call discriminating awareness wisdom. So we're not gullible about what's going on in the world. We're really savvy about what's happening. And then to help people understand, like the people you're working with, that we are being poisoned. And we are being deliberately poisoned. Because there's no money in healthy people, right? I mean, here's Madeleine and I, we have not been to a drugstore for anything in 50 years. We just never needed a pill, anything. And it's nothing to be proud of. It's just, that's the way people always lived for thousands of years. They didn't go running off to a doctor and a drugstore. And so I think when we are proactive about our own health and really understand that we cannot trust governments or the medical establishment, that they don't have any incentive. Like the basic idea is a patient cured is a patient lost, right? They don't want to cure anybody. So we have to understand how to be healthy ourselves. So the more we can educate and help people understand that if they want to be healthy, they have to be proactive and really not buy foods that have chemicals in them. Because as I discuss in these books, especially the new one, the Rockefeller complex, they had so much money. I mean, they were so rich back in the 120 years ago. And that wealth then was used deliberately to manipulate the medical system through the Flexner Report to basically destroy naturopathic and alternative healers, which were much more of them, and to say that the only science-based medicine has to do with patent medicines. Because when you control the medical education and say this is the only thing is pharmaceutical medications and procedures, that's where the big money is. And so the thing is, when you own this petroleum, you have so much money. I mean, they had so much money coming in, they could control the educational system and start creating a curriculum in the whole educational system, which is really not, it's more of a mind control system nowadays in education. And also the medical education, and then also refining the petroleum into chemicals, petrochemicals, which are now sprayed on crops. There's over 80,000 now, 80,000 petrochemicals that are used in food production, in flame retardants, in clothes, in all kinds of things, anything you put on your skin. I mean, it's everywhere, these chemicals, and they're toxic. A lot of them are toxic. And then so the petroleum industry is making money on not only on petroleum, but on petrochemicals. And then if you refine the petrochemicals one step more, you have pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are just refined petroleum. And so the whole system is based on having us consume as many chemicals as possible so that we're sick enough that we need pharmaceuticals, which will make us even more sick. So chronic illness, when I was a child in the 1960s, chronic illness was about 5% of the population had chronic illness. Today, it's about 68% of the population has chronic illness and need regular medications. That's a huge victory for this system. It's a huge a defeat for us. It's a huge defeat because people with chronic illness, you know, they have a hard time even functioning well. You know, it's a difficult thing. So more than ever, we need education to help people understand that we can be proactive, and vegan, whole, plant-based, that's the foundation for the whole thing.
That's been our focus for almost 20 years now.
Great.
And we focus on compassion, nonviolence, and the interconnectedness of all life. And when we go over to the UO every spring when they're having their public interest environmental law conference, there were always other vegan groups there. But the past few years, there are none, and they're all environmental. And they look at us like, what are you doing here? And we try to explain the interconnectedness
Wow.
like they're okay with the environment. Let's talk about the oceans.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our food choices, they go, I don't get it. What about compassion for me, they'll say.
Really?
Yeah. So we've been challenged on a lot of topics, and they're just so disconnected, more so than I remember in 2005. And
Okay.
so we've been challenged by that a lot.
The thing is, that's a really important point. I think what's happened is the environmentalists, they care about the environment, and which is great. You know, I mean, I'm an environmentalist too. We need to care about the environment. However, the vegan movement, I think, has been somewhat infiltrated by big money, and the big money comes in two ways. It comes in one way is through predatory philanthropy, giving money with strings attached, and the other way it comes in is through creating so-called vegan foods, which are really toxic. And so that's gotten, and a lot of the big vegan groups, I think, are getting kickbacks. They must be getting paid off, I don't know, but they're really promoting lab-grown meat and these really highly processed so-called vegan foods like Impossible burgers with genetically engineered ingredients, lots of chemicals and preservatives, and they're just not healthy. And so now we see this phenomenon where people on social media are saying, wow, yeah, I decided to go vegan and I'm eating all these vegan foods. And what they mean by that is all these processed foods, they're called plant-based, which means they come out of a plant, a factory. They're factory produced. They're plant-based. And they say, I tried that for 6 months and I felt so terrible, I had to go back to eating meat again. And a lot of environmentalists are those kind of people. They say, and because now vegans used to be, like when I went vegan back in the 1980s, if you wanted to be vegan, you ate vegetables and fruits and grains and nuts and seeds and legumes and mushrooms and potatoes and sweet potatoes. You ate food, plant-based food. And there wasn't all these exotic, types of milk and ice cream and cheese and burgers and all this stuff that was, and so we were healthy. We were eating whole foods. But then we wanted to get more people in and, come on, you can have this, it tastes just like it. And the problem is people get stuck there and they think that's really healthy, it's convenient. And so now environmentalists look down their noses at vegans. They say, you vegans, you don't care about your health. You don't really care about the environment. A lot of, because there's quite a lot like lab-grown meat. A lot of vegans are promoting that. From an environmental point of view, it's terrible. It takes a huge amount of resources to do lab-grown meat. It's like making drugs. So there's a lot of these strange messages have come in and have been welcomed by the so-called vegan community, and they're a disaster for humanity, I think, and people are smart enough to realize that. And so vegans have lost the high ground. We used to have the moral high ground, the health high ground, the environmental high ground. We should have it. This is the healthiest thing. It's the best for everything. But we've just lost a lot of that. We've lost a lot of the respect. So.
When Robert and I were at the UO for like the past almost 20 years, we were so welcomed, and people were so open to the animal connection.
Yeah.
And now they are, they want to say this polar bear, or this crocodile, or this bear, and somehow we have lost that higher ground.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hear about the toxicity of the foods.
Right.
And they go, oh, are you one of those?
Wow.
And so it's been a real challenge for us, but we're hanging in there.
I think just keep planting seeds, and sometimes you'll be the one that, oh, Lynn, thanks. Because of you, I went vegan. But there's so many others that you will have just helped them along that journey by planting the seeds.
An older middle-aged woman who came to our table one time and talked to Robert and said, my son talked to you about 10 years ago, and you talked to him about this vegan stuff, and now he's driving me crazy about vegan. So thanks to you changed our whole freaking family. And now what is it? What is it all about? What am I supposed to do? So who knows how many seeds
exactly.
That
well, and plus, you don't know, like one person, you lit a candle for them, they might light a candle for thousands of people. So it's just, the main thing is, we only have this lifetime right now. Every day is a precious, I just wake up every morning and think, well, I'm grateful I got another day to just do my best. And plant the seeds, and don't be concerned about the results. That's the key, yeah. All right, I think we're probably at a...
We have a small thank you for you and
Madeleine. Oh, Madeleine. Woo-hoo.
We're giving...
We're having a little...
You a small token of our appreciation.
This is really sweet.
There's our volunteer Linda of 20 years.
Thank you for your presentation.
Oh. Thank you. Wow, this is a whole bag of goodies.